So thanks everyone for joining us today. We're very honored to have such a great array of speakers on this webinar. I'd like to first introduce our moderator, Jeff Pallas. Jeff is a digital entrepreneur, a blogger, a keynote speaker, a strategist, and a best-selling author. He's really well known in the industry. His blog receives over 5 million visitors a year. And you can find him on jeffpallas.com. He's also have about 500,000 followers on Twitter. And if you don't know Jeff by now, I think this webinar will help you get to know him better. So without further ado, Jeff, I hand it over to you.
Thanks very much, Tomer. And it's Boaz, actually. Sorry, and what I'd like to do now is actually introduce some of these speakers, and essentially what we have here is some of the brightest minds in different parts of the content marketing space, and that's pretty exciting. So, okay, I can't move the screen. Okay, so we've got Boaz from the founder and CEO of Bright Info, and we've got Ariel from SimilarWeb, and we've also got Juliana from the HubSpot company. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of these companies, guys, and we're going to be looking at content marketing today, because content marketing certainly has reinvented what we do in terms of how we do digital marketing. And as we know, content marketing or content defines you on the web. So if you don't have any decent content, then that's a problem for most brands these days. And we've also been overwhelmed by the amount of content that everyone's creating. And this is a challenge for all of us, because trying to break through that clutter and noise with 1 billion websites and counting becomes a real issue. So let's talk a little bit about the agenda, and we'll just bring that up here. Okay, and the first thing we're going to be talking about is nailing the right audience. And basically, where is your audience? We need to know where they are. Where do they hang out? Do they hang out on websites? Do they hang out on social? Do they hang out on Facebook? And also, what does your audience want? Okay, so what sort of content do they need? What are their aspirations? What are their problems? What are their challenges? We need to be understanding and put ourselves in the shoes of the customer. And then what type of content does your audience consume? Do they use YouTube videos? Do they use Snapchat? These are all important to understand in terms of delivering the right sort of content. Then we're going to hear about converting your traffic, the power of content personalization. And we know that because there's so much content out there, if you're just receiving content about everything, then you're not going to be reading a lot of stuff. You want content that's relevant to you. And we're going to look at how to use intelligence gathered to personalize your website experience. And we're also going to have a look at how to make the most of the content you create, how to make it work for your business. And lastly, we're going to look at nurturing your leads from HubSpot, how to use it in nurturing your potential clients. And also we're going to hear about smart lists. If you haven't heard about smart lists before, you're going to discover what they are. And then we're going to look at how to use email and smart and dynamic content. And then we're going to finish it off with a Q&A session. So I'd like everybody to hold your questions maybe to the end, or you maybe type them in and we can have a look at those, and we'll be doing a Q&A right at the end. Now, basically we want to get to know you a little bit more here. There's 2 short polls embedded in your GoToWebinar panel. Firstly, are you a B2B or B2C marketer? Can you actually just let us know about that? And select one of the following. And so can you go in there and do that now? Select one of the following: B2B, B2C, both, or other. I don't know what the other is, but you can maybe make up something. I don't know. So please select B2B or B2C. Maybe you do both, but please select that in the poll. So we just get a bit of an understanding of the range of different attendees we have on this webinar today. And also the next question, we have another question we want to ask you too, and we'll just bring up the quick poll as well here. Okay. Basically, what is the average number of visitors to your site? Okay, can you answer that as well, please? So, okay. So, what we're going to do now is we are going to invite Ari, okay, from SimilarWeb to present his slides, and I'll hand it over to Ari.
Today a little bit about, can everybody hear me? I'm a content marketer and I want to talk to you today about protecting your most valuable resource. That's your time. And so before you start creating content, you need to ask yourself, three sort of questions. Number one, where is your audience? I think you know who your audience is. You have a product, you know what they want. You need to go, how do you get to your audience? So number one, where are they? The second thing is, what do they want? Are you creating content that's interesting for them? Is this stuff that's going to be engaging? What are they reading? What are they doing? And the last thing is, what kind of content are they consuming? Because not everything needs to be written from scratch. If they're reading in certain places, perhaps you can create content for those publications to reach a new audience. And you can better understand, what their interests are by understanding what kind of content your audience is consuming. And so there are three very big questions, and luckily the answers can all be found within the data. And I am a data company, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Now, a lot of these insights that I've pulled, you're free to check for yourselves at similarweb.com. We offer free insights for every website, every mobile application. You can sign in to our pro platform and get access to every website with a limited amount of data for free. And that's something I encourage everybody to reach out and try to do. Loads of insights to be found there. And let me show you how to use some of this data to make better content. So number one, where is your audience? And I'm going to answer these questions by looking at case studies and examples. None of these companies that I talk about have paid me or am I endorsing. I just thought they were very interesting examples from a variety of places that I hope is reflective of the people watching here today. Okay, so the first question, audience, where are they? Let's talk about the digital strategy, and there's a company called InVision. InVision is great. They make a really cool platform for designers to be able to design, mock up, prototype, and share different digital designs and projects online. I think they're just a very, very interesting company. So I want to understand, where is their audience? How can they use data to find the people who would be their target users? The first thing you want to do, okay, it's a global platform, it's a digital platform. Number one, where are designers across the world? And it's not just in the US, it's not just the design firm, across the street in your top, English-speaking countries, the US, the UK, Australia. We see that more and more, a lot of design is being outsourced. So if we look at the top 10 countries below, we see that India, there's probably a lot of design being outsourced to India. Canada, the Netherlands. I've actually worked with designers in all of these companies, and I'm not located in any of those countries, as well as Israel, actually a very small country, but very, very strong with design assets. So we can see that, not always is it intuitive who you need to write for. And maybe your audience is out there, but you're writing content in the wrong language. We can see that for InVision, Japan is actually a stronger market than the UK and Australia. So maybe they need to invest more in creating content for the Japanese market. There might be a very nice, enterprise, audience out there for them in order to sell their product. The second thing is finding your audience means creating the content to fit, how they are looking for your product. So if we look at this, we see the traffic share, and you can see the traffic share for every website on the web at similarweb.com, and we can see that InVision draws 56% of their traffic from their brand. Why do I say from their brand? Because we see here direct. These are people who already know InVision, probably loyal users. They have a free product as well, where you can just sign in and go and use InVision. They have a very big email following, and if we want to look at like the new traffic, we can see that they're getting a lot of traffic from referral and from organic search. And in fact, referral is twice as popular, sending twice as much traffic as organic search. So if you're looking at the marginal sort of customer, how do I draw new customers, you can see that you should spend twice as much resource putting content via referral sites that you should trying to SEO. If you were to take InVision as your benchmark for this industry. And so if we look at the top traffic refers sorted on this list, we can see that InVision's actually done this. They've, started to get a lot of their traffic, from project management tools. So they are sort of a project management tool for design, and they've started to be able to integrate with some of the big project management tools like Atlassian, which makes Jira, or Basecamp, or Slack, or Trello, or Asana. These are all these sort of project management tools that are sending loads and loads of traffic to InVision. Now let's say it's hard to get content in. These are other companies. They're not going to open up their blog necessarily outside of a partnership. How can you create content there? Well, number one, you can see that YouTube is still a top referrer. You can see that Upwork is there and Dribbble. So, for designers, being there means having those connections and having portfolios in multiple places. But also, let's look at some of the content places. Give me a second here for the slide to load. There we go. And now we can see, if we're looking at where to find, we're looking at news and blog sort of sites, referral sites, top referrers for InVision, we can see, okay, Web Design Depot, there's a lot of web design blogs here. We can even see, this is where people are getting their information about design. And these are the places where you can start to create content and drive people to your site. Sorry for the delay here. There's a click to slide delay. So if everybody just kind of bears with me while we wait for things to load. Okay. The other thing you can do is we have an algorithm called Similar Sites. So Similar Sites helps you find an audience based off of 18 different factors which line up with the site that you're looking at. So if you want to find an audience like InVision, we can see that Proto.io or Go Mockingbird not only have like almost 100% affinity with that audience, they fall into the same category, they have a similar rank, it's a top 200,000 website, so you're going to find the higher quality. Now if you wanted to find even more similar, we can see here that Mashable, for news and media is on that list. So that means that if you want to start advertising or trying to create content or push content to any journal here, in the design community, Mashable seems to be a very, very important news organization. Moving on. Question number 2, intent. What do people want? And I think, for online marketing and what people are asking for, the most important part of intent is the keyword. And I want to talk about another company called NerdWallet. This is in the sort of finance category. Massive company. It's a startup. They already have $100 million in annual revenue, 200 employees, super fast growing. One of the top sort of websites in the finance category. You can see their amazing growth, almost doubling their traffic in the span of a year. Here they are, competing with some of the biggest brands in finance. They're more popular now than Discover Card, than U.S. Bank. They're almost up there with like PayPal and Citi. So they've built this very, very strong brand. And how did they do it? They built it on content. And they're winning at SEO. So we can see here, by making an SEO play, it's positioned them as a leading player in the finance industry. This is their traffic share. Again, this is available to everybody in the public. Check it out at similarweb.com. We can see that NerdWallet, is over 80% of their traffic is coming from organic search. This is an overview of their search traffic, continuing to trend up. They're not spending very much on paid. It's regular search, a bit of news search. And so how are they doing this high quality content? Well, let's look at their top keywords. Beyond the brand, we start to see a pattern here, especially among the top 20. Best credit cards, best rewards credit cards, best travel credit cards, best cashback credit cards, best, 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 best. So they've discovered that people are looking for recommendations about financial products. They built a whole brand about that. So if we did a pivot analysis here, and we can see, most of their keywords here are about best, credit, how, and what. They're answering questions. They've started to create content based off of the intent. What's the intent? People want to know things about finance. They want recommendations, and NerdWallet is giving those recommendations. Because SEO today is driven by content, it's not really driven by keywords anymore. So if the old way was, lots of keyword stuffing and sort of thin content, now it's focused about, okay, creating engaging content. What are the comments? Are people actually answering the questions? And, our good friends over at Moe's, Rand Fishkin, did a study even where he manipulated the Google rankings by playing with engagement. He didn't own, I think, either one of these sites, but he took the fourth ranked site there, clicked on it hundreds of times, but each time that he clicked on it, he stayed for a significant amount of time. Whereas on the first site, he would click on it just as many times, but quickly click back so that Google would think that this is not relevant content for best grilled steak. And what happened? Well, he was able to game the system, after just about an hour and move rankings up by increasing engagement. So the lesson is, if you think it used to be like query to keyword, it's really now like, building a content strategy, you should include the keyword in the middle, but it's really the post-click engagement. Is your content engaging, and are you answering that sort of query, that sort of intent that your potential customers are looking for? And if we go back to NerdWallet, we can see that their blog is the biggest driver of traffic. This is a business, running primarily from their blog and from that sort of content. And I think this is a really amazing thing. And finally, the last question is, what are your users consuming? So you can use sort of competitive and market intelligence to understand what's going on within the market. So if I take a look at like one of the leading retailers in the U.S., as my final example, Best Buy, we can see here a list of the most popular pages on their website. And right now I'm looking at desktop traffic. And I know the font's a little bit small here, but if you bear with me, we see like, here's people logging in, here's the deal of the day, here's laptop computers, typical things that you would expect to see from Best Buy. But remember, we're looking at, the format of the content as well. So they're serving desktop views, and we see, what we would expect. People are buying computers, they're price comparing TVs and things like that online. Now, if we were to look at the mobile web, we see something that people actually do comparison shopping in the store. So they might not even be in Best Buy, but they're looking at different content on their phones than they are on their PCs. So, they're at major appliance sales, so maybe they're at the appliance store seeing, oh, is there a better deal at Best Buy? This is a big ticket item. So making sure that you have the right content in the right format is very, very important. And to highlight this, I bring one more final example from The Guardian. For those who don't know, The Guardian is one of the leading digital papers in the UK and globally. And we can see, on desktop, The Guardian's, major sort of sections are US, UK, football, the world, typical stuff. People come, they want to see, okay, here's the EU referendum, here's primary results in New Jersey for the elections when I took this screenshot. Typical news stuff. But what do we see? The content that people are consuming for The Guardian for mobile web is very different than the content that they consume on desktop. And we can see here, what do we see? We see very specific articles. People are consuming much more sort of what I would call gossipy content. If I'm a publisher, secret wife of the late Saudi king, alligator, eats the 2-year-old at Disney World. This sort of like clickbaity articles, people are reading on their phones, they're reading, the quick stuff. They're probably getting it because it's trending in social. If you think about how you're consuming content, your Facebook newsfeed or your Twitter newsfeed is very much more dominant within your mobile phone and driving, the sort of content, by device. So remember that like when you're creating content and the type of content you create, you should also consider the device and make sure that your site or your, target for the content matches as well. So I think that wraps up sort of my portion. There's a lot more information coming from our other co-hosts here. So hang tight and we will get to the next one.
Thank you, Ari, and that was very insightful in terms of especially the SEO, the importance of search engines. A lot of us get really, really excited by social. It's like the shiny toy still, even 10 years later, but the importance of SEO, organic search engine results being part of your marketing. So I'd like now to hand it over to Boaz to present his slides. Thanks, Boaz.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Harry. So I'm going to talk to you today about the power of personalization and how you can leverage your content better by tailoring what you serve to each of your individual visitors. Let's start with the end first. Does personalization actually work? Personalization is obviously our line of business at Bright Info, and we run different A/B tests with our customers to prove that personalization works by comparing the impact that the personalization has on visitors exposed to it. And what you can see here is that this is just a sample for one of our customers. In this specific example, conversion rates are up 70% and page views are tripled when you serve the right type of content in context to each individual visitor. Why do you think that is? I mean, when you think about it, most of our work as marketeers, we're focusing on really nailing down the 5% maybe of people who convert on our site, and we sort of take for granted the fact that 95% or so come to our site, stay anonymous, and walk away. But if we truly believe that these are the right 95% or these are the right 100% of your audience that we attracted to our website, then what would be the reason for them to walk away? The only thing that we can think of, if they're the right audience, is that they couldn't find what they were looking for and sort of were disengaged. So what we really want to do is to build relationships. Someone discovers your website, your blog, finds you online. If you really can't grab their attention very, very quickly, they'll walk away and will find, someone else that can get their attention. Ideally, we want to serve them with the most relevant content to be able to build some sort of a trust foundation in place and after they consume a little bit of awareness content, top of the funnel content, and start to see that you're relevant to them, they'll eventually build up enough trust to become a known visitor, a customer, or a lead. Sorry about that. So the big problem, though, sort of in the content marketing industry, is that there's so much content being generated. Once you get on the bandwagon, you have more, blog posts, you have more videos, case studies, white papers, ebooks, and webinars such as the one we're on now, that you can't really serve it up properly to your audience. And what happens is that you tuck it away, at least the majority of it, under a resources section or under a blog section or both. And in both cases, only a fraction of your audience really takes the time to pick around there and figure out what's relevant for them. So ideally, what we want to do is shorten the distance to your content and make sure that the right content shows up next to the page the individual visitor is on now, is a way to really get their attention and get them engaged very, very quickly. If you do it properly, obviously you'll exercise not just a fraction of your content that you sprinkled around your site or your blog as calls to action, sporadically and statically, but you'll be able to exercise all your content and be able to also, as a byproduct, see what's working and what's not working and what are the likes and dislikes of your audience, because suddenly they can pick and choose from content that you serve to them dynamically. They don't have, the only single option of the single ebook or whatever that you're serving on the current page. So let's take a look at some of the examples of what type of intelligence we can gather about a visitor coming into our site. The obvious example is geography. Ari touched on that as well. When we know the person's geography, we can really tailor, everything from language to currency to things like culture, maybe deliver more data to cultures that really encourage more data consumption and due diligence, and deliver lighter data to the awareness stage for cultures, that are not very data heavy. If we can take advantage of the search query, as you've seen before in our portion, search is really showing intent. I'm basically giving my search query to a search engine, and I'm trying to find something out there. And if we can take that intent, leverage it to serve up better tailored content, because now I have more information, then I definitely get the attention of the visitor, and I can really shorten the distance to the content that they're looking for. Another great example is account-based marketing. If I know that I'm targeting an IBM or a Microsoft, and I know someone is visiting from a Microsoft office, obviously I can serve up maybe a relevant case study from another Microsoft department or from a competitor as a way to get their attention, and again, shorten the distance from their interest to the content that I have. If it's a person that's reading specific content, I can also potentially understand their exact position or interest in the organization. This way, really even further tailoring the experience. Oops. Sorry about that. So now let's talk a little bit about what we can learn from on-site engagement and how we can leverage that type of insight to tailor the experience and the content that we're offering and serving up to our audience. So, one thing also that's not really discussed so much in the industry is that most websites today are static. Unlike the shopping experience when you go into a store, you can go on a website, go on a product or a service page, click around, browse around, see the video, watch the, case study, download an ebook. You go on the same page, an hour later or the next day, and you see exactly the same thing. If we can recognize, returning visitors, even while they're still anonymous, and serve up the next step type of content, we can really move them down the buyer journey much faster and not leave the poking around to them and not put the onus on them to find the next step. I think McKinsey said that B2B buyers use 6 different interactions and multiple channels when they do the due diligence and make a buying decision. So way before that they make the decision, obviously they interact back and forth with whatever we give them half a dozen times. So returning visitors are very, very important. I think here we plan to show you a quick little video, but percent scroll obviously is a testimonial of someone who is engaged with a page. They read everything on the page, they scroll down. If we can grab their attention at the tail end with some slider or some call to action that shows up, then definitely that fits naturally into their browsing behavior and can grow engagement and move them forward into the buyer journey, much different than a piece of static mention somewhere at the middle of the page or at the end of the page. Time of topic obviously is also a great indication of someone really taking an interest in researching about a topic. It could be time on a same page, or it could be time on multiple pages to talk about the same topic. If it's the same topic in your blog and someone is reading 2 or 3 articles, it really shows that they're engaged with this topic, and maybe it's the right time to ask them to sign up for updates on that specific topic. Likely in terms of content consumed, the type of content that visitors consume, if it's top of the funnel awareness content, or if it's middle of the funnel consideration content, or closer to the bottom of the funnel, the purchase type content, it can really help us determine what we want to serve back to these visitors in order to move them forward in their journey and help them really engage with us. So these were just a few examples of how personalization can really help you take your audience and shorten the distance between their current visit and the next step. But obviously, if we want to do things in scale, we want to leverage software, and we want to leverage the power of machine learning and computing to do things in scale. When we do things in scale, we can take into account things like the crowd behavior. So if I'm serving a certain audience, and I can see how 1,000 people responded to a certain offer and learn from that, that really helps me serve better the next 1,000 people that are interested in exactly the same topic on my website. If I can better leverage all your content assets, not just a handful of them, or not manually try to adapt certain calls to action to a certain audience, I can make more educated personalization decisions that definitely can also learn a lot in the process about the content and about how my audience engages with the content. So definitely what we see is that the more automated your personalization can become, and the more you can leverage software to automate things, you can do them at a much higher scale. And when you do that in scale, in terms of leveraging the content, in terms of the iceberg that we looked at earlier, and trying to really grow your content ROI, leverage all the content that you can, this is something that's automated personalization can really help you get going. If we look at the left side chart, typically according to the Content Marketing Institute, up to 70% of your content produced really goes unused. If you have machine learning type capabilities, you can really make use of 100% of your content, do the trial and error at scale, and understand what's working and what's not resonating with the audience. A really important part of this is that you are not impacting the experiment. It's not like everybody on a page is exposed to the same ebook and you think that that ebook is working great because it's the only one on the page. It's really trying a lot of of mini experiments back and forth, seeing what's working. And that's also what's allowing you to extend your content shelf life. So in summary, I think just to recap, we talked about, what we can learn from the information the user arrives with or the visitor arrives with, what we can learn from their on-site behavior, how using all your content can really help you learn more about your audience and about your content, what's working, what's not working, at scale, and not just being reflecting back to you by the type of content that you handpicked and put on your pages, and how machine learning can really help you do all that automatically.
Okay, thanks, Boaz. It's really, really insightful regarding, especially about the use of science now and technology for your content. And I believe we certainly are seeing content moving to being not just about the art and creativity, but also about the science. So it's the art and science of content marketing and using technology to scale our content and to be clever about personalizing. So thank you very much for that. And we hand over to Juliana now to talk about how to nurture your leads. So thanks, Juliana.
So I think everyone teed up how to get everyone to the site with personalization and then how to convert them really well. So what I'm going to dive into now is once you have people on your site and once you've converted them, how do you take the next step? So to kick it off, I want to quickly talk about an example of a quick story. So let's say you go out on a first date with someone. The night's going well, everyone's having a good time, and then at the end of the night you're expecting, maybe a hug, maybe a and they get down and they propose to you, you would be mortified, you'd be terrified, and that's kind of like an extreme version of what happens if after someone visits your website for the first time or attends a webinar for the first time, you ask them to buy something or become a member or become a volunteer or basically make a huge commitment to your company, which is where lead nurturing comes in. Lead nurturing, quite simply, is just the process of taking someone who's a stranger on your website and then using a series of communications. We're going to focus on email for today to first just qualify that person. Do they make sense as a potential customer for you? And then to keep them engaged and gradually move them along the sales process. So we're going to talk about how to do that today and then also how personalization really helps in that process. Think back to that first date example. Not only are you going to go on more dates with that person, but they're going to learn more about you, and they're going to, tailor the conversations and the activities to what they've learned about you, which is going to strengthen that relationship and make it more comfortable and easier for you to move down the path with them. So we're going to talk about how to do the same thing with your leads that you've got to your website and how to use personalization kind of along that journey. So before we go into the actual specifics of that, sorry, I want to make sure I'm getting a little bit of a lag on this. There we go. First, I want to talk about the actual buyer's journey itself. So instead of moving someone down a sales funnel, we're going to actually look at this in terms of the buyer journey, which is how HubSpot likes to frame a prospect's kind of, path that they take from not even knowing about you or just, being aware of the fact that they have some sort of problem or some sort of solution that they want some help with, all the way down to when someone's thinking about actually purchasing with you or becoming a customer. So to run through these, first, the awareness stage is essentially just someone, they know they have an issue, they know they have a problem, they've typed something into Google, you've come up because of that great content you've made that we talked about earlier. So this is, kind of that first step, it's that handshake. Consideration is when someone, knows that they have a problem or a challenge that they want to find a solution to. So they're actually aware of what they're really looking for at this point. They're not necessarily ready to buy. Decision stage is when you really get down into the mud of someone vetting out you versus a competitor or considering purchasing or becoming a customer. They're really focused on the actual transaction at that point. So your job as a marketer is to create messaging that resonates with each one of these steps. And not just resonates, but also moves them along that journey, which is where personalization comes in and can not only aid that process in being more effective, but also speed it up. So, hold on, let's hop backwards. There we go. Sorry guys, there's a little bit of a lag on here, as everyone's been saying. So the first step is just to get the right information from the people that you're marketing to. And how do you do that? Like they've said, content is a really strong way to do that. And using that website information you've gotten from people, you're able to better learn what is going to actually convert them. Let me see if I can get the slide to go forward. There we go. In order to get information from people, there's a lot that you can do that we've talked about already in terms of understanding, the referrer source that they're coming to from, the region that they're coming from, the device that they're using. All that is actually information that they don't even need to volunteer that to you. You can just gather that for free online. I want to really focus in on information people opt into. So by offering them, a webinar or an ebook or something of educational or resource value to them, you can learn a lot more about the leads that are coming into your system and better arm yourself to personalize your nurturing that you do down the road. So not only does this information give you stuff to know who you're nurturing, but it also tells you who not to focus on. So as much as you want to focus on who you're trying to attract and who you want to convince to become a customer, you also want to have an idea of what makes someone a bad fit. And that's the kind of questions you're going to ask on those forums when you're first learning a little bit more about your leads. So maybe it's industry, maybe it's marketing budget, maybe it's their actual position. For example, at HubSpot, we have forums that ask you what your role is. So if someone says that they're a student or an intern, we want them to enjoy our content. We want them to engage with us, but we're probably not going to have them evaluate our software. So these are the types of questions you first need to ask in order to set yourself up for success with the rest of your nurturing. So once you've done that and you know who's a bad fit, who's a good fit, and you've gotten a little bit of information about people, your next step is just to figure out how you move them down that buyer's journey with that information. And the first way that you can do that is, it's a little bit more static or passive, if you will, but it's using smart content. So taking an online experience like this example here and making it feel like a one-to-one experience for many people versus just everyone having the same experience when they land on your website. This one, for example, is a video game community that shows a different message to someone who's already registered to be a member of the community versus not. It's a really small touch, but it makes a really big difference in someone becoming more comfortable. The best example of this is probably Amazon. This is our two founders up top, Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah. You see that if they hop on Amazon, they're going to get remarkably different experiences. And because of that, they're probably going to be a lot more likely to buy. And of course, this is a very B2C e-commerce focused example. For B2B or kind of larger purchase decisions, this is a little bit more complicated. But the general premise is with personalized nurturing and smart content, you can be Amazon, or you can at least market like them. So where would you use smart content, or essentially showing two different people different experiences? And I think when you're thinking about smart content in the terms of lead nurturing, you really want to show people different messaging or more specific messaging that's designed to move them along the buyer journey when you've delivered some sort of value. So on your website, maybe not right when they log in, but after you've given them a new educational offer, or they've read an article that they really like, or maybe in an email that you just sent them with some updated company information. So all these places are places where you can actually swap out the language to be more specific to the person that you are marketing to. And as we said in the agenda, the way to do this all starts with building the right lists. So taking that information from the people who have made some sort of conversion and found their way into your database, and using that to actually fuel what you show them. So based on the list that someone is in, showing them a different message that's more geared towards them. The two that I really want to focus on here, because there's a lot of information you can ask for, are where people come from, and then also kind of where they are, their life cycle stage. So where they are in their actual relationship with you. Someone who is, first-time visitor who came from social media, for example, should see a really different offer than someone who's been opening your email and engaging with you for 2 months. So your database essentially should work with you, not against you, to build these smart lists and help you serve up better content. And all the lists in the world don't make a big difference unless you actually have some different content offers or different types of content to pair them with. So what I'd like to tell people to do, and just grab a screenshot of this, or we can probably send out these afterwards, but do content audits. See what you have. Do you have content in your arsenal that's actually going to move people along the buyer journey? So something to first inform them. What do you do? What does your industry do? Are there questions that they have about the field that you're in or the industry that you're in that you can answer? Just help them become more aware of potential needs in the sector that you work in. Consideration. Do you have things that actually inform them a little bit deeper about what your type of solution could do to help someone with their problem? And then decision, case studies, trials, demos, things that actually help them put your company brand name right to the solutions they're looking for and make a little bit more of an aware decision. So just to illustrate an example of how this might work, let's say that someone has a first-time conversion on HubSpot. We sell marketing automation software as well as sales software. But there's a lot of different pieces in that software. We have social media, we have blogging, we have email. So there's a lot of different types of solutions that we could help someone with. We could pair the stage that someone's in and how much they've interacted with us with a type of content to meet, let's say, referral source, for example. So someone who is still in the awareness stage and has told us, let's say on a form they told us they're from a technology company. We could show them an ebook based on how technology companies are using marketing automation. Let's say that same person interacts with us 2 months later and we see that they've been emailing us, they've been in our database for a certain amount of time. We know they're a little bit further along the journey. We could then show them a case study about how technology companies are using marketing automation. So slightly different offers for slightly different times in the buyer journey. So one good exercise there is just, again, take a look at all the different content you have and see, do you have something that would match each one of those stages? Starting small, do you have one piece that you can use to push people forward? Now, smart content is great. It lives on your website. It's helpful. It does the work for you in the background. But like I said, it's a little bit passive. And that's where I want to talk about automation and how it can actually help move the needle forward at a faster rate. So automation, this is a long definition, but it's essentially a way to make things happen in sequence without you having to do the manual work behind it. So setting up, again, we'll focus on email for this talk, but setting up a series of emails that will trigger on their own based on an action someone has taken on your site, and using that personalization information you've learned to make those emails more effective. And then also, not just automating, but also understanding. So when you send out a series of emails that you've triggered based on someone's action, understanding how they interact with those. Have they clicked them? Have they opened them? Which emails are most successful? There's actually a lot that you can learn from the process of automation itself. So how would you trigger a workflow using personalization? List-based membership is one way. So saying someone has actually downloaded a specific webinar, you could then set up a series of emails all about the same topic of that webinar, each one getting progressively more detailed on the topic of the webinar covered, eventually moving up to a place where it talks about your company and how you relate to that solution, but at first just informing someone. Date-based. You can also trigger workflows based on dates. So let's say someone, out of curiosity, they're a little bit further down that buyer journey, has started a trial with you, and that trial ends in 1 week. You know that at the start of that 1 week, you want to start sending them emails to see if they're ready to become a customer, or if they want to learn more and take that next step. A few other examples I'll go through quickly because I know we're running low on time. On-site behavior, email actions, almost anything that you can track online, you can trigger workflows from. So how do you actually set up an automation workflow? It's pretty simple. What you do, if this goes forward for me. There we go. Number one is just to plan your steps. Do you know what 5 emails you want to send someone? Do you know what your goal is? Can you say, this is what we want the starting criteria of someone to be to enter into our marketing automation, and this is our goal. This is what we want them to actually do. So the starting criteria is anyone who downloaded our ebook about email. And our goal list is everyone who signed up for a demo of our email tool. So you want to start and an endpoint. And again, you want to get as personal as you can with these with that information that you've gathered. again, you want to actually write out the emails themselves and then consider the limitations you want to place around that workflow. So considering, are there people that shouldn't be getting your emails, or are there only certain days you want to send it on? Set some restraints for yourself and understand, again, from what you've learned, when are the people that you're nurturing online? What type of other marketing messages are they already getting from you? Do you want to make sure they don't get wires crossed and get too much email from you? All things to consider. And then again, the beauty with anything digital is just measure and adjust. Always be looking at the types of interactions people are having with your email and where you could get better. This is an example coming up from example, a HubSpot email. You can see that if we're sending 5 emails to people to take them from lead who just is interested about learning something all the way to someone who wants to see a demo of our product, and we see that there's some emails that are getting less opens or they're getting less clicks, that's where you're going to really dig in and improve. So really measuring each step along the way is one of the best ways to see what's going on with those. And last but not least, I just tell people with marketing automation and personalization, it's about baby steps. Start small. See if you can swap out one line of your email based on the industry that someone's in, or see if you can set up 2 different nurturing workflows based on if someone's a B2B customer or a B2C customer. See what makes sense for you and dip your toes in before getting too crazy. So just some quick takeaways, and we can flash forward to questions. Again, understand the buyer's journey, awareness, considerations, decision, and where your different audiences fall there. Learn as much as possible about your prospects when you're actually getting them into your database by offering them information or resources for their personal information other than just getting the data that comes with someone visiting your website. Know what a good fit versus a bad fit is. You only have so much time and resources. Build the right lists of those information. Decide where you want to serve up smart content based on those lists. And then push things forward even faster, use automation to make it more touchless and to have kind of things work in the background. Last but not least, measure and adjust. So with 3 big minutes left, I'll throw it back to Jeff, but thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks, Juliana. That was great. And I think with so much content today and also there's a lot to learn about this personalization, about this new science and art of marketing. I think taking baby steps certainly is one of the best places to start. And I know that when I started with automation years ago, I did it very simply, and then 18 months ago I took it to another level and used digital marketing automation platform like HubSpot. And yes, it's got to be baby steps, and just when someone subscribes to your list, send them a series of emails that introduces them to you. And one way of doing that is actually to introduce them to me personally, and because I'm a personal brand. So take those baby steps. Don't try and do everything all at once. Just take those baby steps. Really important to understand that. Just start and start learning. So we've got some questions here, and we have one question from Melody Young, and I just want to throw it to the panel here. Does anyone know the answer to this? And Melody's question is this: do you have a recommendation for a site or product where a person could submit their website and have it analyzed for user experience?
Yeah, Jeff, I have one suggestion. HubSpot offers something called Marketing Grader or Website Grader. If you just type that into search, it'll actually look at, it won't do a full user experience per se, but it'll go over SEO and how your site works on mobile and a few different like load speed, things like that. So again, that is, let me double check what the name is. I believe it's Marketing Grader.
Yeah, I remember using it about 7 years ago when HubSpot brought it out, and I used to use it every day to see how my site was progressing. So it's a very, very good tool. It's very high level, or not very high level, it's high level, and give you start to give an understanding of how your site's performing. Yes, I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, Website Grader is what it's called now. We revamped it.
Yeah, that's the one. I think Scott just topped that in, Website Grader. So it's at website.grader.com if anyone wants to go and check that out. So the site to go and do that is website.grader.com. So while we're waiting for some other questions there, so we've touched on bringing the right audience with SimilarWeb, and thank you very much, Ari, for that. We looked at how to things to convert your traffic from Boaz, from Bright Info, and lastly we had a look at nurturing leads with HubSpot and Juliana. So if we've got any other questions there, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. We've been right on the hour now, which has been great to have you all here from all around the world. Some have been up late, some have been up early, and some have actually just in the middle of the day. So just one other thing, in terms of who was attending this, is just give you an idea. 51% of you said you were doing B2B. That was your audience. 20% said B2C, and 29% said both. So there you go. So I don't think we've got any other questions there, unless any of the panelists and team there would like to ask some. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and we look forward to seeing you somewhere else, somewhere around the world, whether it's online or offline. Thank you very much.